Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and if you haven't guessed already, yeah, we're back on with the IBM Thinkcentre rebuild, repurpose as my new workshop bridge PC. And I've been going through what I'm going to actually put in this thing. Now, what I've just been messing about with on camera, that's the floppy drive that wasn't currently connected up. It was just in the case and I didn't know whether it worked or not. Well, I've just lashed it up to the actual system here. Put a DOS 62 boot disk in there and booted the actual board from that floppy drive. So we know the floppy drive's good. The board is exactly as you saw it last time. What I have got though, I've got the back plane out, I've got the driver CD out here. I decided for the time being I'm going to use the drive that was in the system when I used it, because the case that I'm actually going to put the original motherboard that was in that already has a it's either a CD or a DVD drive in it, so that's absolutely fine. And that, I know it's a DVD drive, it's a little bit late for what we're actually doing. It's 2007. So to be honest, it's something that someone would have put in as an upgrade for the kind of era of system that I'm building here. So yeah, I'm going to reuse that. Hard drive wise, the original hard drive obviously was a SATA drive. This board doesn't have SATA support on it. I've dug out a couple of likely IDE hard drives that I plan to use with this. But one reason, both of these are good drives to use for this. I've got this Seagate Barracuda. This is an 80 gig drive. Now, the nice thing with this drive, and in fact the other one as well, this actually has a jumper setting on it to set it as a 32 gig drive. Now, Windows 98 doesn't really like hard drives bigger than 32 gig, so we would lose a load of capacity on it, but that's not that much of a problem. But we can limit that to 32 gig, and we could use that one. But I've also got this Samsung drive, which is actually a perfect date for the kind of like era of system that we're building here. This is a 2003 40 gig hard drive. Again, it has the option to be able to set it to a limit of 32 gig. Only problem with this one is it's faulty. So it's the fault on it. I actually just noticed it when I was going through my hard drives. There's actually got a capacitor there which has been knocked off the board. It's just kind of like hanging off. So what I think we'll do, we'll get the bench cleared off, and the first thing we're going to do is see if we can fix this hard drive and get this to well, we'll solder that back on and try it, put it that way. If that doesn't work, I'm pretty certain this one definitely works, and we can set that down to 32 gig and we could use that one. I'm also going to just, well, I've got the soldering iron out and warmed up. I'm just going to tidy those wires up there and just get the wires that we don't need out and things. Just basically just make that a little bit neater and tidier. I mean, it's not too bad the way that Andy did it, but I've got heat shrink on hand there, and it's going to look neater than some insulation tape there. So we'll sort that out while we're doing it. So I'll get the bench cleared off. We can do them few little bits of jobs, and then we can start actually putting this computer back together in the case. Like I said, I've got the driver CD there, and I have actually burnt myself another copy of Windows 98 SE. Archive.org to the rescue on that one. So hopefully we can actually, at the end of this video, I'm not saying we're going to get the project finished, but we might actually get this thing working with an operating system on it, and you'll be able to boot up and everything. So I'll get all this cleared off, I'll get the camera reset, and we'll be back in a sec. Right, okay, there we are. So we've got the hard drive we want to repair and the cable that we just want to make a few little improvements on. We'll start with this, shall we? Now there's some wires here which aren't used anymore. I'm guessing when it had its original motherboard in, these had a purpose, but they don't anymore. So, and I don't think they will do on the board that I'm installing in here. So let's get them out of the way. I want to try and make this as neat and tidy as I possibly can. We're actually going to do some cable management and things in this computer. Let's try and make it as nice and neat and functional in there as we can, because there is obviously going to be the option that we're going to be going in there a fair bit. Right, so those go to the power switch, and obviously like I said they're not needed, so we can just snip them off really. Let's get some nice sharp cutters. My other glasses, there they are. That's better, I can see it now. So that's the one that we don't need. I'll just get them snipped off. There we go. That's wires we don't want in there, and all we want to do now. So there's nothing wrong with this, it's just I want to make it a little bit neater. So we'll go undo Andy's tape. I'm just going to add some heat shrink on those really. I think black will do for everything. There's no point in going mad at this. Like I said, we just want something that looks a tiny little bit neater with some insulating tape. I mean, that will work perfectly well, but pull them apart. We'll snip some bits of this heat shrink. It's a little bit on the, let's see, just make sure that that will go over. If not, we might have to use a different colour, but oh no, I think that's going to work quite nicely. So we'll cut some. 1, 2, 3 of them. Now the only thing is, because this wire's the positive, as this is a hard drive LED, so we do want to get the wires the right way around. That one will be going to that one. And we want to make the join as flat as we can make it, obviously, because we want to get that heat shrink over it. So we'll twist them around flat like that. Get Mr. Soldering Iron out. There we go, that should do it. And we can take that bit of heat shrink, put it over the join like that. Just let the hot air warm up a little bit. And just increase the speed on that a little bit. We'll shrink that down. Just put the heat up a little bit on that. I must have been doing something where I didn't really need a lot of heat. But basically that's what we're going to end up with. Let me just get you zoomed down on that so you can see a little bit better. So basically that's what we're aiming for. Like I say, it's not, there's nothing wrong with the way it was done. I just want it a little bit neater. So as I said, we'll slip that over there like that. I'll take the two wires like that, and we'll twist them into each other if you look. So we'll basically, rather than twisting them together side by side, we've twisted them like that. Hopefully you can see that. And then when I solder it, see see it lays nice and flat. And then, because it lays nice and flat like that, we can take the heat shrink, just slide it over the top like that, take the hot air, and shrink that down. There we go. As you can see, it just makes it look that little bit neater and tidier than a tape join like that, if you look. So I'm going to go ahead and just do those two, get them out of the way, and we'll come back when we start playing with that hard drive. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're back, and as you can see, that's the finished results. I did it exactly the same as I had before there, just heat shrink them all. Twisted it back around, and I did put a little piece of slightly larger heat shrink over there just to keep all these together, because they all go to the same place on the motherboard. We don't need them fraying out, so I think that looks a little bit neater than it did. That'll go back in the system now, so put that to one side, and let's just turn our attention to the hard drive. Now, as far as I can see, the only thing that's happened to this, it's probably happened in storage to be honest, is this capacitor here has been basically knocked off. Let me get you zoomed down so you can see what I'm showing you. Right, let's get you in there. As you can see, this capacitor here has basically been knocked off the board. I'm wondering if I can just basically just bend it back over and then get it to solder back down, or is the side going to break off when I try and get it back down. But it's a 22 UF capacitor at 25 volts, so if the worst comes to it, we could just stick a standard electrolytic on there, to be honest. It'd probably work fine. Let me see if I can just finagle that back in place without the other thing is I don't want the pad to rip off on the other side with keep manhandling it like that. Just find my my cleaner for the soldering iron. And I'm hoping we might just be able to get that and just get it to there we go. It's not very straight, but I think we did get a good. Let me just check this side here. Make sure that is. Just flow that back down on that side. It actually appears to be a through-hole component that's had the legs. That's basically had the legs bent round and mounted like that to the board. So. Go back in there, just see if I can straighten it up a little touch. There we are. And it's not perfect, but it is at least back on the board, so we can give that a go. Yeah, I'm not like I say, it's not perfect, but it is at least now mounted back on the board. Both legs are actually in fact I might just add a little bit of extra solder on that side, to be honest. Get a really thin piece of solder out, because that side does look a little bit meh, you know, it's not perfect. There we go. Get a bit of solder out, and we will just there we go. That's better. Yeah, I'm happy with that now. The other side was okay, but it just wasn't looking quite as well fitted on that side. But yeah, I'm quite happy with that now. Right, so we've got a possibly sorted out hard drive here. Let me get you zoomed out. Oops. So we've got a possibly sorted out hard drive there, at least one that's good enough to test. We're going to set this, in fact we could try it at 40 gig first, see whether it does work or not. If not, like I said, this is easy enough to set as a 32 gig. I think this is currently set as a slave drive. So we need to move that over to that side there, I think. So if we move the pin, I think that's right, and that shows that to there. It's furthest away, right? Yeah, so if we move that over one, this should be a master drive now. So what we'll do, I'll pause the video, we'll get the case back out, we'll get the board in it, and we'll get this thing built up, and then we can actually see if this hard drive is going to work. So back in a sec. Right, well, I've got the case back stripped down and back on its side, so I think the first thing we'll do is we'll put this back in the case, because I don't think it's going to be very easy to get to once the motherboard is back in. So hopefully this will just clip back in. He says not being able to line the little thingies up. Oh, I've got it upside down, that's why, you silly sod. Right, now let's try it again. Right, that lines up, so why... Yeah, I thought this was going to be easy, but oh no, there we go. That's it, that's clipped in place, lovely. So we've got our main loom back in there. I should really put the USB ports back in at this point, but I'm actually not sure whether I'm going to use them. I will refit them because it's going to be harder to put them back in later, but I don't actually think I'm going to connect this up because I have got a better idea. Move them out of the way, let's get this clipped in. Yeah, it's a shame there's actually only, then again, there's ways I can get around it, but there's only 2 USB ports internal on the main board. Well, the main board that I'm fitting. There we go. No. This is one of them things I'm sure it's incredibly easy when you... Is that it? No, it... We'll have to pop this plastic bit back off just to be able to get that in. I'll tell you what, folks, I'll pause the video. I'll come back once I've got that USB connector back in and we're ready to actually put the motherboard in. So back in a sec. Okay, well I finally got that back in, but it turns out the case was a little bit bent at the front, so it was a little bit of a faff to get in there. Right, but now that's in, let's get them out of the way. We'll get the old anti-static strap on, and we will have a look at hopefully seeing if this motherboard is going to work. We'll sit it down for a trial fit. Yeah, I think that's going to work really nicely. Let's sit that in. And yeah, I think that's going to go in lovely. And screw holes lined up nicely. All the ones that need to anyway. So yeah, it's going to get screwed in nice and tight. There's plenty of them screw holes all line up. I do have the backplane, the ATX backplane for this motherboard, so which I think will work nicely. We'll see if this is going to fit in the case. It should just clip into place. because the original board in this computer actually didn't have its backplane. And this one mightn't either, because this doesn't look like it's going to fit. Again, I think you're going to have to bear with me a second, folks, while I see if I can figure out if I can get this to actually fit in the case, because it obviously wasn't designed for an IBM case. It doesn't quite seem to fit, but I'll have a quick look, see what I can do, and we'll be right back. Right, okay, we're back, and basically what I'm going to have to do, there's a little, can you see this little lip like that on the edge there? Essentially what I've got to do is take that off. So I've got some shears here, and it's a case of going round this and just taking that off, and that should give me enough clearance to actually get this to fit in this case. So I'll get that done, and I'll try and refit this again, and then we'll be right back. Right, okay, that was a little bit of a pain to do, as you can see, but once I got all that trimmed off, as if you look here now, that actually does fit really quite nicely. It's gone in absolutely perfectly. So let's just get back to what we was doing, which was getting the main board in here. So I'll take the main board. Let's see if we can get that down. I've got that cable there's gone underneath it. Let's get that out. Slightly annoying when I'm not going to be, well, I might end up using that cable yet, but I don't plan to for the moment. That's fitting really nicely, and it's all popped out the back exactly where it should. Lovely. Right, so let's get some screws and actually get that board mounted down there. Now I've got some old PC screws here. Let's see what we've got that's going to match and look okay. In fact, what thread pitch have they used for there? That's the older, thicker thread pitch, that, isn't it? Let's try that one. See if that's going to work. Oh yes, they're going to work. They're going to fix it down nicely. Yeah, so we've got quite a lot of, there's loads of screw holes in here, which is actually quite nice. It's going to hold the board down really nice and securely. So I will go through this and I'll get this fixed down nice and tight. There we go. Can't get to that one, that would be a bit of a pain to get to. In fact, there must be a way of getting to it because it's actually got a screw hole through it. There's one right up there. I'm not going to bother with that one. We don't have to go that mad with fixing this down, but we do want it nice and secure. You know, we don't want any chance of it being loose or anything. Especially seeing there's going to be a good chance here we're going to be pulling cards out of this, putting cards in it quite a lot. We want to minimise the chance of the board actually flexing. Right. I've got 1, 2, 3. I've got a couple more screws to go in there, and I think that should pretty much do it. put another one down in this corner there. Okay, and I'll put one more in there, and I think that should do us. That's really well secured, that board. Right, there we go. Right, so we've got a happy motherboard in there. Well, when I say a happy motherboard, we've got the motherboard nicely in the case. Let us connect up this, which is our power hard drive lights and everything. This is our power switches, that one. In fact, I'll do that one last. Let's do our that's our hard drive there. There's the bottom one. I think that's that way. No, that's the other way around. That should be that way around. Then that's our power LED. Again, I think this is the right way around. There's our other power LED connector. And then finally our power switch. And that's on. Right, okay, so that should be everything we need to actually make the computer power up. And again, that's looking reasonably neat down there. I suppose we can't go really much further until we've got a power supply in this thing. And again, I'm going to use the power supply that came out of it, because it's got all the connectors we want on there, including one for a disk drive, a 3.5 inch disk drive, so it is pretty much ideal. And it's powerful enough. It's not exactly mega powerful. It's a 230 watt power supply, but it produces I think it's 11 amps on the 12 volt line, and this motherboard was asking for a minimum of 8 amps on the 12 volt line, so that should be absolutely fine. So let's get that back down and mounted actually in the computer. I don't know if this is the power supply that was originally in this, or whether this is the power supply that Andy added because the original one was no good. That I'm not sure about. Them screws aren't right. It wants ones with the thicker thread. Like that one. Let's make sure we get all the screws in. Okay, 2 more to go and we're happy with that. That one in there. Put one more down there. Then at least it's got its full complement of screws holding that in. There we go. Right, so we've got our power supply back in. Let us connect the power up. Let's see, we'll probably snake it round that way if we can, because I think that'll be quite neat. So I'm trying to be as mindful as I can about cable management in this, and try and making it look as relatively neat and tidy as I can, especially with, like I said, bearing in mind that all being well, if this does prove to be useful, we'll probably be going in it to, you know, connect up various peripherals to test and all sorts with this, because it is a bit bigger than my other bridge PC. My other bridge PC is made in quite a like super slimline small case, so it doesn't take up a whole lot of room in my very small office, but I have got a little bit more room down here, so it does mean that I can have a full-size system with all the advantages that has. You know, I've got full-size PCI slots we can get easy access to and things like that. Right, okay, that actually looks reasonably neat, but again, I'm probably going to do some cable management on this before the whole project's finished. That's really the bare minimum we need to actually see if this thing will fire up, but we might as well, while we're in here, put things like the CD drive and the floppy drive in, because we don't have to do it after anyway. So let's again, I've swapped the floppy out. It did have a black one as the main drive, but as I'm going to be putting a 5 1/4 inch drive in this thing eventually, we just want the one 3 1/2 inch drive, so I'm going to use this one. I think that's in about the right spot. Them seem to be lining up okay. We can always move it after. Where's my screws? Okay, that's snugged down without being too tight. We will put 2 in. There we go. So that's nice and secure. We'll want some power to power that up, and we do have the correct on one of these. There we go. So that's the floppy drive powered up, and we can use the other end of that for the moment for the CD drive. Again, I'll put that in. In fact, we might have to move that down. I don't know yet. So let's have a see, because we're going to have to pick the CD drive up and the hard drive, and the hard drive's down there, and I really want them both on the same channel. Well, let's snap that in place. And I'm not going to bother with all the CD audio stuff or anything like that at the moment. I just want to get the computer to a bare bones state. Eventually we will put, you know, the CD audio cables in, but again, I might end up putting a different sound card in this and not relying on the onboard one. We might end up putting a better graphics card in this, but at the moment I'm just going to rely with the onboard sound and graphics. Right, I suppose we're better, which is the primary and there's the secondary. Is this going to reach? If I put that, this might just work. I'm going to put the floppy drive in first. Again, this cable is going to need some work. This is only a single head cable just for a 3 1/2 inch floppy, and obviously we're going to be planning on running a 5 1/4 as well. But this is long enough that I might be able to add the connector, and yeah, it'll still snake to where we need it to on the actual motherboard. So we'll put that in there for now. Connect that up. So I'm not that mind about the cable management at the moment. That will come when we get this computer a bit more dialed in. But what I'm hoping is that connector will, it might just do it. where we can go to the hard drive in there with that with the cable, and the other end will actually go up, and hopefully, if I'm really lucky, just be long enough to connect to the CD drive. So I suppose what we'll have to do is we'll put this in the dock and actually see if everything's going to connect up, and hopefully that hard drive is actually going to work. That might even have an operating system on it, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that hard drive was used for last. Right, so we open that up, and the hard drive, I think it would be better that way round, wouldn't it? Although, no it wouldn't, it would be better that way round because we've actually got fixings on the front for it. So let's slide the drive in place. And we'll mount it in place with these screws at the front. Which is about there, right. This is one of these really fiddly things where you need like 2 pairs of hands, but there is only actually enough space to get one hand in there. Right, okay. That's mounted up. Let's put another screw in there for completeness. I can always put the other 2 in once we've ascertained that this hard drive is actually going to work, because as I said, at the moment it is an unknown quantity. And we still may have to get in there and fiddle with some jumper settings, because it's currently just set as a 40 gig master, and I don't know how well Windows 98 is going to like that. Right, there we go. So we've got our hard drive actually in place there now. You can't even see what I'm doing, can you? I just noticed that. No, I've just done all of that completely off the camera. Sorry about that, folks. But anyway, we've got the hard drive back in its caddy there. What I want to do is see if we can get this IDE to actually mate up with it. I think actually, if I'm really careful how I do this, I unplug it off from the main board. I get that plugged in to the hard drive first, like that. Push that through, make sure that's all happy. Now I'll need a power connector. That's a SATA one, which is going to be absolutely no use to us now. That's a pain. That might actually get... No, I don't know where to... Yeah, I'll probably end up cutting that off and just putting a standard one on, actually. It'd be more use. But we can get this down here. It's going to be long enough anyway for what we want. Let's get it. Yeah, cable management's going to be some fun when we get to that point. So we'll need one of them to come up to feed the floppy drive as well. The 5 1/4 inch floppy when we finally get to that point in the project. Right, that's connected up. Let's push that in, and that's in place. And let us see whether we can actually get it connected up in this side as well now. So let's get that over there. Tuck some of that wiring in. And is that side, that is going to, I think this might just work, you know. Get that up there. Get that IDE connected up. Yes, that's gone in. So they both fit. Now, is this side here, are we going to have enough slack on here to get it to plug into the motherboard? That is the question. Ooh, I don't know if we are or we're not. Nope. Nope, damn it. We're not going to have enough room to get between there and there. Damn it. I was really hopeful there as well that that was going to work. what we might have to do just for initial testing is perhaps put the hard drive elsewhere just while we try and get this thing up and running, and then we'll worry about that. Let me have a think where I can just quickly stick the hard drive Pro Temp, and then we will come back. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're back and it's all in. Basically what I've did, and this is only temporary, I've actually put the hard drive up there on top of the floppy drive, and that basically makes all the cables do actually go in now. What I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to find a longer IDE cable which will actually allow me to do what I want. So basically the hard drive will go in there, it'll come off the board into there and then up and into the CD drive there. It's going to be tight in here, but I really want to see if I can keep it as neat and tidy as I possibly can. Right, so I will get the we might as well just do a temporary test of this thing, mightn't we? So we'll get the monitor back in shot and plug the keyboard and everything in, and we'll actually see if the thing's going to fire up. And then I can case it back up and we'll actually have a look at seeing the operating system on it. So, get that to one side there. I suppose we can stick the front panel back on so it doesn't get lost. There we go, that's the front panel back on. Doesn't look perfect because we've got a big hole, gaping hole now where the other floppy drive was, but we can sort that at a later date. It's not going to be a major issue, that. Right, I've got a monitor. Let's power that up. We'll need some power for the monitor, won't we? That's up here. Right, so we've got a monitor there. Let's get that plugged in. That fits in nice and tight. Let's get the keyboard connected. I suppose we better have a mouse as well, haven't we? We've got a keyboard. Let's plug the keyboard in. Now, I've got a serial mouse here, that should work. If not, I'll have to go and grab a PS2 or a USB mouse, but we'll try that for the time being, because that should work, especially with Windows 98. I don't think there's going to be an issue there. Right, that's all that connected up. We're going to need some power as well, aren't we? There it is. In fact, we've nearly got the computer back together, haven't we? We could even click the side of the case back on just for completeness, couldn't we? And in fact, it would actually keep the keep a little bit of the noise down from that horrifically noisy CPU fan, which I am going to have a look at, seeing what we can do about that. I've got a few ideas. If I can't indeed find out why it is being so damn noisy. Right, so we've got the computer there. Let's power it up and see what happens. Absolutely nothing. So what have I done wrong? I've obviously done something wrong, because that ain't working. Just make sure that's switched on down there. Right, just bear with me a second, folks, because we've obviously got some issue. Back in a sec. Right, okay, well, it turns out the front little switch on the front is not pressing. If I actually press it with a screwdriver, it does come on fine, so just do that for the moment. And I'm obviously going to have to look at that and see what we can do. But the computer is booting up. What it's not doing, though, is picking up that hard drive. So we'll have to have a quick look at that. Yeah, it's basically getting up to there and then it's not. So I'll have to deal with that switch at the front, which is a pain, because basically it's going to be an absolute pain to get that out. Now I've got the motherboard in there. But let's have a look, see what we can do with this hard drive, because the hard drive I don't even think was spinning up. And that's not going to be an issue with the operating system, obviously, because we're not even getting that far. We're getting into the operating system. So let's get that disconnected. And we'll pop that out and just see if I've not done anything stupid. In fact, let's see, just make sure how the DVD drive has been configured. Because it could be that this is set as master slave. You can see what I'm pointing at. It could be that the hard drive is set as master slave and the CD drive could actually be set to cable select or something like that. I must admit I didn't actually check. So let's pull him back out. And I'm pretty certain that is set to master slave. Now let's pull out the CD/DVD drive again. I'll have to disconnect it all. And we'll try and actually get it working out on the table here, and then we can always put it in once we're happy with it. We've got our cables there, so let's see what this is set to. Well, that'd be the reason, because this is set to master and that's set to master, and that ain't gonna work. So let us set the drive to a slave. There we go. And we'll connect this back up. We'll just quickly temporarily latch it up here just to see if this is all going to work now. You stay on there. We'll plug that in there. Let's connect up the hard drive again. And we just have to kind of like just have them sat like that while we do this quick test. It won't matter. And then if I'm happy and these actually, it does recognise them this time, I'll go ahead and I'll put all this back in the system and then we can carry on. Right, there we go. Okay, so that's the hard drive and everything connected back up. Let's try again. I think the hard drive is spinning. Aha! That's what the problem was. Now this might try. Alright, disk boot failure, that's excellent. But we've got 40 gig hard drive there as the primary master, and we've got the CD-ROM as the primary slave. That's just exactly as I wanted it. Right. Let me stop that from. There we go. So I'll get the computer put back together once again with these drives in it, and we will see if we can actually possibly get an operating system on this thing. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're back, and if you can see, the computer's actually all back together. I did actually, while I was in there, I had a fiddle with the button on the front there, and it just wasn't quite pushed into the actual case and locked in quite far enough, so I had a quick fiddle with that, and you see now it starts on the button. We do still have the incredibly noisy fan, but we're going to deal with that in an upcoming video. I'm not going to deal with that quite at this moment. But if we go to main, let's see if I escape, exit and save changes, yes. All being well now. There we go. Primary master, our Samsung hard drive. Our slave is our CD drive. Disk boot failure, obviously, because we haven't got anything in there. But if I was to put a, what have I got it about? Yeah. If I was to put a DOS disk in, all being well, it should start to boot into MS-DOS. Oh, I'm sure that disc was working last time I tried it. I probably just picked up a bad. I think I've picked up a bad disc there, but never mind. But anyway, it's working. What we want to try and do though is see if we can get it to boot Windows 98 SE. Put that in there. We'll Control Alt Delete. And we're going to have to go into the BIOS settings, go into boot, and removable device, no, let's try setting that to I presume it's a tapping, and hard drive that, yep. And disable that there. Right, that should allow us to boot from CD, I think. Exit and save changes, yes. So I believe this is a bootable CD. It should be anyway. So let us see if the computer is going to boot from it. Let us see, keep your fingers crossed. If not, we'll have to get make up a Windows 98 boot disk and do it that way. But actually, look like this thing can boot from USB as well. Oh, no, we're not working there. Let's have another quick check in the BIOS. To boot, it should be able to boot, so it's booting from removable device. Oh, right. Yeah, removable device. We've got USB zip, USB floppy drive, a tappy, which I presume is going to be the CD, legacy floppy or disabled. So that should work. That's fine. CD-ROM drive, yeah, tappy CD-ROM. So in fact, if we disable that, it should try the hard drive, not be able to boot from the hard drive, and try the CD-ROM drive, I think. And I should have saved that, shouldn't I? It's a while since I've done this. It's actually some time since I've messed about with trying to install Windows 98 on the system. Probably a couple of years actually since I've done it, so forgive me if I'm making a few mistakes. Let's see, I've got a boot disk that's going to work. If not, I'm going to have to go away and make some more disks, I think. In fact, the Windows Millennium boot disk should work, shouldn't it? I should have one of them in this. Yeah, we've got another disk boot failure there. ME boot. Let's try that. Win98 boots. Let's try that. I don't know if either of these disks work, but let's see if we can do it this way. Control Alt Delete. I'll have to reset up to boot from floppy, won't I? As I've said, it's been some time since I've messed about with like Windows 98. Right, boot. we will put that down to legacy floppy. And we've got the CD, the hard drive, CD drive. That should work. Exit, save changes, and exit. Yes. No. If these floppies do indeed work, which I'm not sure. In fact, that one looks manky. I won't be trying that one. That is not trying to boot, is it? Now why is that not trying to boot? You'll have to bear with me a second, guys. I'll see what I have to figure out what I'm doing wrong, and we will come back when I've figured out exactly what I am doing wrong here. So back in a sec. Right, okay, we're back, and I'm currently just using my Windows 98 laptop here to make a recovery disk, which hopefully we can then boot this computer with. And that should allow us to, obviously that will have the CD drivers on it, and that should allow us to access the CD drive and get Windows 98 installing on the Thinkcentre. So we're at 45%. I will come back when we've got this disk made and we can try it in the Thinkcentre. So back in a sec. Right, okay, well we've got a disk. I've just tried that in the laptop and it booted in the laptop. So let's switch the computer back on and put that disk in. Let's put the just in case. Of course we'll have to go back into the BIOS yet again and set that back to floppy. Just bear with me a second. Oh, I've gone past it, haven't I? There we go. Right, so let's set this back up. Boot. We want to set that to legacy floppy. We've got that right, that's right, that's right. Let's go to save changes, and hopefully, if you keep your fingers crossed, it might actually boot off the floppy this time. And if it does, we should be able to access the CD drive. Let us see. That doesn't sound... I will say that floppy drive doesn't sound very healthy. No, and I know that that floppy definitely works because I've just booted my laptop from it. And that floppy drive was working because I'd already booted DOS 622 on this board from that floppy. This is really annoying. Yeah, it's not. So have we got a bad... Has that floppy drive just gone bad on us? It looks like it. Let's give it one last quick try. And I've definitely got that the wrong way, because that seems to be working with the hard drive. So I'll have to mess about with the way I've got the power and the hard drive connected. Yeah. It looks like that floppy drive's just died from from last time. Right, well, to be honest, this video is already getting... Let me shut that off. This video is already getting far too long. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to finish the video here now. We've got the computer basically working. It's all back together. I'm going to have to either fix that floppy drive or put another floppy drive in it. And when we come back on the next video, we will definitely put Windows 98 on this computer, and we might even do some of the other things that I want to do. I might even have found a longer IDE cable by that point, so we can actually move the hard drive from up there down to where I want it to be. And what's going to go in there is basically that. So I've got... It's got a USB on it, that's why I'm not too worried about losing the ports down there. This will basically go where that those two USB ports are, but this is far more useful because we've got a USB port there. What I really want it for is the fact that it's got compact flash on it there, but it also gives us, you know, SD cards and just about everything else. Like I said, the real reason I want this in here is because it means we've got the ability to plug compact flash cards straight into the front of the system. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Apologies that we didn't actually get this computer fully up, running, booting Windows 98 in this video. But like I say, in the next video we will go into that. At least I got that power switch fixed. It's all back together. It does need a tiny little bit of a clean still. But we are getting there. This is more kind of what I wanted from this system. Like I said, Windows 98, Pentium 4 class motherboard. Not too much RAM, not too big a hard drive. So anyway, like I said, I hope you enjoyed that little update on the project and watching me struggle putting this thing back together. So I'll say thanks for watching and goodbye.